How do you follow up such a landmark title as Super Mario World? Some consider it not only to be the best 2D Mario game, but the best Mario game of all time. Well, you iterate on the creativity to an astounding level, and you change up the formula and reach further back into the past. And give a beloved new side character their time to shine. But does it change too much even to make sense to add the Super Mario title into the mix? Is taking away the timer and health bars a disservice to what came before? We'll find out if Yoshi's Island stands the test of time today, but before we do you believe it's worthy of the title Super Mario World 2? And maybe share some memories you have about this game from your past, because that's where we're headed, back to the SNES days of 1995 to see if Yoshi's Island is worth your time. What's interesting about Yoshi games after this one, they branched out to be different types. You have nearly carbon copies of the formula, and then you have the new, more cozy feel after the N64. You can see a very nice through line from Yoshi's story to Yoshi's Crafted World. One thing that every single one of these Yoshi games does seem to have in common, some better than others, is a striking art style. Yoshi's Island is absolutely gorgeous. The amount of times I stopped to gawk at these backgrounds, they are so simple in design most of the time, but breathing with life. Apparently this marker style approach of drawing on actual scans of the backgrounds worked out for me because I cannot get enough of it. Mario has always been colorful. Sometimes I feel like the colors are a bit muted at times. Super Mario World, though, brought some primary brightness to everything. And Yoshi's Island definitely followed in its footsteps with twice the amount, making it more childlike with the markers and the hand-drawn feel. The flowers popping up from the clouds or floating in the air are just inviting you to snatch them up. Even the way the numbers at the end of the level dance and move around if you get that 100, it kind of just has this carefree child at recess feeling that's hard to pinpoint, but this game invokes that emotion from me. Obviously, I played this when I was a kid, but even now, I still have that feeling welling up in me. Even if the art style is simple, as I said before, the way they frame some of these shots while you're out searching for all kinds of goodies is wonderfully done. You'll have the background open up and there will be some hills in the background or tall trees or some fun childlike drawn clouds while you're fluttering across a gap in the level. A lot of the times there's almost a second layer to the background images as if the objects are on a different plane, which for back at this time has a more advanced feeling. Once in a while you'll have the foreground impede your vision, or you'll be disappearing up into a tree and losing track of Yoshi and Baby Mario. And of course, there's a focus on the background that blends into the gameplay a few times throughout your journey, which I really, really love. A striking example of this is in the second level of the game, where the chain chomps are bopping along in the background. They just come shooting up into the sky and descend to where Yoshi is trying to have a nice walk through the environment, and these chain chomps just start eating the ground. This is what I love about this game, though. This is the second level, and Yoshi's Island is showing off its unique blend of art style and direction. It's a standout level with the color palette, too. The background has these nice greens and blues, and the ground you're watching closely so you're not falling down into these newly dug chain chomp holes has this nice top layer of yellow bleeding into an orange. Honestly, if you spilled a bucket of crayons and mixed them around, I feel like that's how they pick their color palettes for different levels. There's such a variety to them. That wow factor took a long time to taper off for me when playing this game again. The little touch of going into levels from the world map screen, they're black and white, but when you finish them, the color takes over the image. Subtle moments like this make me appreciate this game with this more recent playthrough. Also, the enemy art style is wild in this game. Look at these weirdo ghosts. Or this happy-go-lucky boss design. I love that this game gets weird and charming all wrapped up into one. We'll get a closer look at some of the more iconic Mario enemies in a bit, but just know that this game has some wonderful designs that fit with the overall tone of the marker-like world that they were going for. The art style also has some shifting with completely different art, the beginning intro, the ending, and even when Baby Mario gets stolen. It's almost jarring when compared to the game you'll be running through and actually playing, but it also kind of makes it stand out, and it has has this kind of weird claymation, weird 90s cartoon vibe that I'm glad didn't make the whole game look like this art style. Would that be cool nowadays? I don't know, maybe they could really make it work, but I like the inclusion regardless. I feel like this style is also kind of linked to certain parts in the game. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but there are segments within the game where there's falling walls in a castle or a spinning platform that have this odd 3D effect that's, again, kind of jarring, but also whimsical, and I'm happy they're here. One perspective switch I really love, which is only in a couple spots throughout the game, where the platform itself has like this pseudo depth to it. It's like they tilted the camera ever so slightly and gave us an isometric view, especially when you see the tunnels going up into the top of the screen. It's such a cool style, and I'm surprised they had enough reservation to only sprinkle it in. I don't know if I would have been able to do that, but man, what a gorgeous looking game overall. But before we transition into the world of gameplay, we have to set the stage for Yoshi, Mario, and Michael. I'm Michael. Little me was so ecstatic over the final boss of this game. The change-up and not knowing what was coming blew little Michael away. I did play this on the original hardware back in the day. I even have my original cart. The footage you're seeing this time around is from my recent playthrough on my Nintendo Switch. It took me 10 hours, 10 minutes, and 29 seconds to see the ending credits and the little movie that plays at the end. As I was playing through the levels, I tried to 100% them on this playthrough. I ended up getting a score of 100 on 27 levels, which I felt was pretty good. I was taking my time, constantly killing myself to reset to a previous checkpoint when I saw a red coin getting snatched away from me by a hovering Shy Guy, or when I was just starting out after the checkpoint and get hit right away, so I lose those precious timer points, so I jump into the hole and reset. And that's where I'll lead us into the next portion of this retrospective. This game is actually pretty darn difficult. The amount of times I died in this game was way more than I thought it would be. I stopped keeping track of it because it was numerous. One thing I've noticed about modern Yoshi games is that they tend to be more casual, much more casual. Yoshi's Island still keeps its roots in that later world Mario game difficulty, even with changing a drastic element of what came before in Super Mario World, removing the overall timer from the levels. There were a lot of changes to the overall Mario formula. I mean, you do play as a dinosaur, but this change, this simple thing, made the entire game feel different, not having the timer. There was no rush, so it kind of just nudged you into taking your time, explore the level at your leisure. Without having the constant reminder of having to reach the end goal of the level, you naturally want to see if you can find all those hidden red coins. Why shouldn't I try and figure out how to bounce my eggs off this wall and grab the flower? This is especially evident when you finish the first stage and maybe you hadn't found everything and you see the points tally up and you wonder, what happens when you get a perfect score? Well, you get a fun little dance and that cute chalk-like font comes up. It's good. Obviously, a little bit later, Super Mario 64 went in this direction as well, where I feel like that had to be a necessity for the type of game they were building, but Yoshi's Island could have kept the timer, and I think if they didn't have this switch, it would have drastically altered the feeling of the game in a negative way. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and we can focus on getting those darn jumps right and not fall into the lava constantly. I still did. Yoshi's arsenal for attacking and exploring is now his famous white and green eggs. For the most part, anytime you tongue and swallow an enemy, you get to replace your lineup of egg ammunition. There are plenty of spawn points on the map for enemies to keep coming out of pipes, so you don't have to worry about shooting your eggs everywhere. Again, another design element that helps with the feeling of comfort. If you waste a shot or two, it'll be easy to refill. At least for the most part, there are sections of levels later on that if you aren't accurate or eating enemies as you go, you'll run out of eggs and miss a secret. It's bound to happen. Another big change is that fact that Yoshi is invincible. If you take damage, Mario hops off your back and floats around in a bubble crying out for you to rescue him. This can be annoying hearing that soundbite over and over again if you're getting hit a lot. I didn't find it as nail-biting annoying like some people do, and I did get hit a lot. But mostly I just fell into the various platforming pits of doom, and Yoshi doesn't come back from those. Even when you lose Baby Mario and get hit by an enemy, Yoshi gets stunned instead of losing his size like Mario did before. Now if the timer, replenished by those star bits you're collecting across these levels, runs down to 0, Baby Mario's crying will cease to exist because Kamek's troops have whisked him away back to Bowser's castle, and it's game over for you. The choice of not having life per se, you would think would lower the difficulty, and it probably is an easier game overall between this and a lack of an overall timer. But like I said at the beginning of the section, I died a lot. Because the platforming challenges are still here, and they like to up the ante a little bit where you're getting chased by a platforming, devouring chain chomp. I think it's a bit too difficult for the casual experience it presents itself with. I prefer it this way, but I could see this getting in the way for some players. Granted, if you don't try to 100% each level as you go, I think that will drastically cut down the frustrations, at least for a time, and it will also cut down on the time it takes to beat the game. Even before Super Mario World, Mario had power-ups. Yoshi's powers are different vehicles, turning himself into a different vehicle. You got Mole Yoshi, you got Helicopter Yoshi, or one of my favorites, the Train Yoshi. It's a ridiculous concept that doesn't overstay its welcome. This game has a nice cadence of that, of interrupting the normal flow of gameplay. I did use the word interrupting. That's almost too harsh of a word. For the most part, it's a welcome change to what you've been previously doing. Like the locked rooms, for example, where you're gonna face off against this bandit, where you have to pop balloons to find the winning item, or at the end of the level where you can be rewarded with a game to give you extra lives. Whether that's roulette, a matching game, like in Super Mario Bros. 3, the match game. Sometimes I care for this stuff, other times I don't. The locked rooms, on the other hand, offer items that can be used in the levels. Like, for example, you can get 10 stars whenever you want. You just press the star screen, use the item, or a magnifying glass that will reveal all the hidden question clouds or reveal those pesky red coins. I like this aspect of the game, and it reminds me of the item systems that have come before. And actually, Bowser's Fury has a similar item system on the Nintendo Switch, though again, those are more power-up focused, where this game has more utility uses. It wouldn't be a Mario game, or Mario-like game, if you want to go that route, if they didn't have some creativity in its levels. Yoshi's Island has a heaping amount of levels that are just freaking cool. One level we'll start the focus on is a level where past Mario characters, yes, you've seen Shy Guys all the way up to this point, but Go-Go Mario gives us our first glimpse of Goombas. I love their design. They're slightly off kilter or something. The white around their eyes almost bleeds into the color of their body, and they raise their eyebrows when they're about to jump off a ledge, which is a nice little touch. You also get to see the Koopas in this level alongside the Goombas, and they're so vibrant and bright, and the animation of the Para-Koopas is just a joy to see in motion. There's something about the familiarity of these enemies amidst this new carefree art style that pairs really well together. And in this course, you have the gameplay mechanic of Baby Mario turning into Super Mario. Or Super Baby Mario? He gets a cape and runs up walls and is invincible with his star power, so those above gameplay switch-ups of Yoshi turning into a vehicle aren't the only thing. Mario gets his turn as well. I like these segments overall. It's fun to see him running upside down, only to jump and parachute into an enemy. They can get a bit tricky at some parts if you're trying to get all the red coins, and this section ends with you going into these flying wigglers. It's just a Mario-themed extravaganza, which I love. I think the go-to level that everybody talks about is Touch Dizzy, Get Fuzzy. Probably the most iconic level when anyone brings up this game, and honestly it still holds up as a cool and creative design choice. Obviously the weird sounds, the controls, everything is pretty interesting, but I really like the floor raising as you're walking along. And again, you see this in the first world. It feels like something they would hold on to for later, but just like that awesome second level with the chain chomps, they pull out a lot of their cards early on to hook you in. Don't Look Back has Yoshi hopping on balloons to explore the level vertically. Riding the individual smaller ones can be hectic if you miss a jump, and you are just fluttering across the screen, hoping you'll find one below as you slowly fall further and further down. I love the pressure that this level creates, because you're also hopping on switch platforms that disappear depending on what number it's on. It's been used before in other ways, but this execution is wonderful. Not to mention the giant red balloon you get to blow up and ride on while it slowly deflates. Such a fun little gimmick that I believe you only get to see twice throughout this journey. Lakitu's wall gives you the giant eggs from the big boy Shy Guys. Creativity, man, it's awesome. You got 3 excellent snow levels back-to-back in World 5. Blizzard. I love the way that they make the snow fall heavier and heavier until, what do you know, you're in a blizzard. There's some other nice little touches, like when you're up against a tree, it causes a small animation and noise for the snow to kind of crinkle around. Also, you get the fireball throwing Lakitu, which feels like a Dragon Ball Z move to me. The charge up and blast radius actually surprised me. Following Blizzard, you have Ride the ski lifts. Man, this one ups the difficulty. It can become pretty stressful, especially towards the end when you're jumping from one lift to the next, and there's a giant void below you. I like the snowman enemies just trying to mess up your day while you're in Winter Wonderland, and it ends with danger, icy conditions ahead. I love the beginning portion of this level. Navigating all the ice while slipping everywhere. Yoshi skiing down the hill at the end is pretty brutal, only because it has this Donkey Kong Country minecart feel that I absolutely do not love, but it wouldn't be so bad if I wasn't trying to get those darn red coins. I died quite a few times missing the jumps here, but the first half of this level, awesome. Love it. And I usually don't love snow-themed levels in a lot of platformers just because they go too much with the slipperiness. But man, these 3, back to back to back, excellent. I think the area that I disliked the most throughout this entire game was World 3. The freaking monkeys, man. They're so annoying in this game. I feel like the palette and design of what you were doing also overstayed its welcome in this part of the game. It's really the only time in my 10 hours of the game, for the most part, where I really felt that. World 3 was a constant not feeling it vibe. World 5, on the other hand, is a roller coaster. Oh my gosh, do I despise that gull wing level so much. I died so many times. And I just missed 1 flower. Oh, it's frustrating. Though I do think it's a good difficulty curve overall. I can see that. But man, World 5, the snow levels are so awesome. The later levels in that area are some of my least favorite. And then it ends with a great boss fight, which is where we're going to move on to next. What I enjoy about the probably overall design philosophy with these boss fights is they take a normal enemy and make it interesting. Usually it's messing with the stage itself or one aspect on how that character would feel just being bigger, because that's Kamek's magical plan. Make basically every enemy giant size to squash Yoshi. You think you would change your plan a little bit there, bud? Oh, they do one time. For the most part, I think this actually works when you distill it down to such a simple premise. You kind of know what to expect when you go into the boss fight, and then they just tweak something a little bit, and it makes it fresh. Bert the Bashful is a great introductory boss. You've seen his smaller form bouncing around, so you know how he's going to react, but it's still fun to see and try to hide in the corners to get some reprieve between your shots. Each boss fight has a sort of pattern that you need to figure out where the safe spot is. I think Tap Tap is one of the few boss fights that make you truly feel like there is nowhere safe because of how he can move around pretty freely. Plus the brick breaker gameplay design within the boss fight was such a cool design decision. Boss fights in Mario games have never been crazy memorable overall, but at least these ones try to give a fun flavor. Like, for instance, Roger the Potted Ghost. One, just an awesome name for a boss. But 2, you're literally just pushing his vase across the platform to just push him off the ledge. You have the nice added element of the Shy Guys pushing back and him trying to nab ya, along with some flames coming down. It's a super simple concept that is executed with care, and honestly, it's a standout boss fight, even though it's so simple. Going inside the frog flips the boss formula on its head, so Kamek learned something one time at least. I would say my standout fights are the Block Breaker Tap Tap. The way World 5 ends, as I alluded to earlier, is such a freaking high note. Raphael the Raven taking you up into the moon and having to circle around to ground pound. Oh my gosh, what a freaking phenomenal concept. I will say though that turning with how quick it is could lead me to feeling nauseous if I kept it up. And I think this comes down to that the moon is small and the turning radius is so quick, it can be not so pleasant combo. Even though the creativity of this boss fight is super high on a conceptual and execution level, there is fear of the motion sickness, but man, great idea with this one. And of course, the final fight. We didn't know what'd be leading to this, but we should have expected it. If we got Baby Mario, well, of course we're gonna get Baby Bowser. Little me should have expected Kamek to use his powers on Bowser, but knowing Bowser seemed to discard Kamek when he wakes up, I just didn't expect it. The second stage of this fight, the way the perspective shifts is so cool. Shooting eggs out into the background to hit Bowser blew my little brain away when I first experienced this. And it's still super cool on this current playthrough. To me, it really does feel like a true last boss and adds in elements that you've seen before, a big enemy, and the platform you're standing on slowly shrinking, but the intensity and adding that element of Bowser coming towards you as the player is just such a win in every way for me. It's such a strong send-off to a crescendo of this difficulty in the later stages. The boss fight itself isn't too difficult overall, but the epicness paired with the switch up of perspective, and not to mention we have Yoshi standing at a different stance, all that combined is just doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Plus, Mega Baby Bowser looks menacing. Such a cool design, the rush of him coming at you with feeling that pressure just building. It's so good. And when you do calm down after beating the boss, because your emotions are going up, you're greeted with a little ending of reuniting with Luigi. And we move on to the end of the game where the twins have made it home and your adventure is over. Unless you want to go back and get 100 on every level. And here we are at last. Are the changes that they made to fit with a different style of Mario game worth experiencing overall? Was stripping away the timer and life meters the right choice to make this more focused on the exploring aspect? Is it too difficult of a game that might sway you from enjoying your time with it? There are a lot of different avenues of thinking to go down, but I think I covered most of those in this video. At the end of the day, for me, Yoshi's Island is a must-play game from the SNES era. It holds up in bursts of creativity, the visuals, the overall design. It's an important game that spawned Yoshi to go off on many more adventures while evolving and taking some of the qualities that this game set forth. I love when a game holds up to my young kiddo's mind from back in the day. It doesn't always happen, but it's nice when it does. Does it live up to the legendary shadow that is Super Mario World? And is it worthy of even having the Super Mario World in its title? Honestly, I think it does. Now, whether it's better or worse or just a nice companion piece, that's for you to determine. I hope you found this video worth your time, and if you want another video to take some time away, well, how about diving into another retrospective, Breath of Fire 4. It has dragons, kind of like dinosaurs, right? Yoshi Dinosaur, dragons. Or just search the plethora of Nintendo videos on this channel to keep you busy.